Going to give us an escort to Freddie's car.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And he's going to let the boss.
Look at all the niggers coming, man.
Uh-oh,
I think we got problems, J-Bo.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned. I was like, you guys are driving the truck, and my little ass is going to be walking by all the niggers.
And they call us cowards, but we're out here.
Look at the
Holy
niggers.
shit. Hey, yeah, they're all coming. Okay, we picked a good one.
We're outnumbered now.
We're in the thick now, niggers.
Nah.
I'm ready to fight. Fuck them niggers.
Hey, these niggers are coming, bro. These niggers are coming.
These aren't police officers or soldiers.
Your business owners, your fathers, your sons, daughters.
These are civilians, members of the Lincoln Heights Safety and Watch Program.
It's a duty. Okay, let's go.
The duty, protecting their neighborhood, the majority black village of Lincoln Heights, Ohio. After neo-Nazis held a rally here last month, carrying rifles, waving swastikas, and hurling racial slurs, just moments before children were let out of school. At the time, law enforcement officials said the neo-Nazis did not break any laws, but an investigation by county prosecutors is ongoing. Weeks later, the KKK came with these flyers. Every day, the Safety and Watch group escorts children to school and patrols the streets.
Why do you all wear masks?
Those Nazis, we have reports of them finding our backgrounds. So we're not hiding ourselves from the residents, but we're protecting our family for what we're doing out here.
Are you worried at all that having a potentially armed response could just create more friction, create more danger?
I'll answer that by saying I've never felt safer as a black man.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 9, and it reads, Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Racha, Kodash. I want to give double honors to my elders and apostles who rule well, where I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations to Akim, you brothers out there laboring, pushing this word out in all truth and in sincerity. I want to say shalom to you Israelite sisters that may be listening. And I also want to say shalom to you Israelites that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. You may look like these other nations. However, your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the chosen seed line. Shalom to you. I'm going to title this lesson somewhere along the lines of the coming civil war / race war, because we are getting into those times now where things are going to start heating up, especially now that we're in the springtime and summer's right around the corner. You know, anytime the weather changes and the weather heats up, you know, them spirits get active in the earth, man. You know, them spirits, them violent spirits, you know, they become a little bit more animated, and you're going to start to see some wild events, you know, especially around the summertime, right? We've just coming to a close on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And yeah, we're going to get straight into it, right? So, you know, I read out the scripture in Genesis chapter 49 to begin with. Judah's a lion's whelp, you know, because the tribe of Judah is the head tribe of the Israelites. It's the same tribe that Yahushai comes from, right? The tribe of Judah consists primarily of the so-called African Americans. But however, we understand that the 12 tribes of Israelites predominantly are the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American indigenous of the Americas, right? Predominantly, but like I said in the beginning of when I started this lesson out, I said, Shalom to the Israelites scattered throughout the four corners of the earth that may look like these other nations, but their seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the only ones that are going to the only ones that are going to receive salvation are the Israelites. No matter, regardless of what they look like, if they're an Israelite of the chosen seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then that's who the gospel is for, right? Now, the Israelites have been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth and placed into captivity for disobedience against the Lord, right? For breaking his commandments and being just disobedient, So we're going to start in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter and the 49th verse. I think it's the 49th. Let me just check. Yeah, okay. So this is Deuteronomy 28 and 49. It says, and Yahweh, well, it's like, let me start that again. It says, Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Right? Now, this curse describes how the Israelites would be scattered into captivity under other nations, right? Now, I'm going to jump down to verse 64, because I'm going to tie this in together, right? And it says, and Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Right? So the Israelites were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth to an adversary whose language they didn't know. And the scriptures describe this adversary as swift as the eagle flieth, right? So that should give you a clue as to which nation it's referring to. It also says that we would, the Israelites would serve other powers, other gods, even wood and stone. Now, two of the largest following of religion on the earth today is Christianity and Islam, right? Is the Islamic faith, right? Now, when you research history, as far back as the Roman Empire, maybe even before then, but at least from the Roman Empire all the way up to the American Empire, the eagle has been a symbolic representation of their power structure. Noticeably, you would see this on their flags or their banners that represents their empire, right? The Romans, from the Roman Empire, through history, we understand that this goes back to the nation of Esau, Edom, right? Now, what you would also realize is that that nation, through the different empires, has predominantly been the so-called white man, right? A few scriptures to further expose that. Let's just jump over to the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24, right? It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? So that's a rhetorical question, right? Because the ultimate judge in the earth today is Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls, Jesus, right? But that's not his name. Yahweh Shai was a Hebrew, and that was his name, Yahweh Shai, which means he is a deliverer, come to deliver his people, right? The Israelites. Now, when we look at some of the images of what they did, so during the time of the Renaissance period, there was such a thing called whitewashing, is the term that they use, where they took all the images and they rewrit history, basically, to put them in the position of the Israelites. So they made Yahweh Shai a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man. They made the Israelites and the saints all, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, or maybe even brunettes. You might even have a brunette or two in there. But they're all, so-called white men that they depicted the prophets as being, right? Now that we understand that through history, we can see you have the Russian icons. Vladimir Putin opened up the vault and he was showing all the images of the saints in their original state. And majority of, pretty much all of the images, they were melanated people, dark-skinned people, right? Right, and just to prove that point, I'm going to read in the book of Maccabees, First Maccabees, chapter 3, I believe it's verse 48. Yeah, it is. Okay, so it says, this is First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 48, and laid open the book of the law, that's the Bible, right? And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images, right? So this is what happened. That's why the Apocrypha was taken out of the Bible, because obviously it exposes a lot of truths, right? Now, in the King James version of the Bible, right, the standard King James version of the Bible, you won't see the Apocrypha in there. However, if you get the original 1611 King James version of the Bible, you will notice that they have the Apocrypha in there. Now, it's very clear that the scriptures say that anyone that adds or takes away from the scriptures, they will receive of the plagues that are written in the scriptures. So this was done by the nation of Esau Edom, right? Because, again, they covered the faces of the judges thereof. And it says here, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So the heathen, the Edomites, right, they painted their likeness. That's why you have, you know, Yahushua looking like a blonde-haired, blue-eyed hippie, right? Right? So I'm going to flip back to the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. I'm just going to read it one more time, right? So it says, the earth is given into the hand. This is Job 9 and 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right? Now, the hand of the wicked, you know, you look at the power structure at the moment, and America, you know, under President Donald Trump, right? He's barking a lot of orders around the world since he's come into the office of presidency. You know, he's imposed tariffs on Canada, Mexico, Europe. You know, he's going after Yemen currently at the moment. He's getting ready to go after Iran. You know, he's you know, having beef with China. You know, he's talking about taking over. I think is it Iceland or Greenland? I forget. One of the two. I think it's Iceland. They want to make it the North American territory. You know, take over Canada and Iceland. You know, that's what they're doing, man. Right? Which leads me to my next scripture. I'm going to jump into the book of. Let's have a look. I believe it's Ezekiel. Ezekiel 36. Let's have a look. Yeah, so this is Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 5. It says, therefore, thus saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, our power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. Now, Idumea is the chief house of Esau Edom, and they are the small hats, right? You know, America's closest ally. Well, we know who those people are, obviously. They're the ones that are bombing Palestine right now, you know, indiscriminately. Broke the ceasefire, right? It says, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. Now, when you look at the history, you go back to the British mandate, the Balfour Declaration of 1948, right? This is when the land of Israel became a Jewish state, right? It was proclaimed to be a Jewish state. You know, this sort of goes to show you that, you know, the heathen appointed the Holy Land into their possession, right? And now, obviously, after them indiscriminately bombing, you know, the Palestinian people, right? Now they're talking about securing that area. Well, Trump came out of his own mouth and said that he's going to secure that area, and you know, it'll be safer for everybody. They're going to rebuild it up. That's them appointing the land into their possession.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
That's what they're doing, you know. It's pretty clear. And obviously you got the people in that region that are, you know, standing against it or speaking against it, right? You know, it just goes to show you that they're against it. So what's, you know, Israel doing is recruiting America to come up against their enemies, right? And it says in the scriptures, let me slack here one sec. I'm going to turn to the book of Jeremiah real quick. This is slightly off topic, but, you know, it needs to be brought out. So this is Jeremiah 49 and 20, right? And it says here, it says, therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh, that he have taken against Edom, right? So it's talking about the same people, the Edomites, and his purpose that he have proposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. The least of the flock that it's referring to is, the nation of Israel, right? It says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely, he said, make their habitations desolate with them, right? So again, this is talking about, you know, the chief house of Esau Edom, which is the 1948ers or the small hats, you know, slang terms. But it just goes to show you that this is their bread and butter. This is what they do, right? I want to get another scripture in the book of Ecclesiasticus. You know, it's luckier for consistently jumping to different scriptures, but I'm basically just pointing out the scriptures, right? So this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 10. I'm gonna go to verse 8, right? And it says here, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So, you know, their time is getting short, right? Their time is getting real short, and they're starting to feel that pinch that's coming, right? That pinch that they're losing the grip on their kingdom, so they have to start moving faster. They have to act faster, right? So you're seeing a lot of oppression happening in the world. That's why you see all these people boiling up.
Baby, the way this economy is going, these white people finna start crashing out soon. And I'm talking about the ones who not rich, the ones who ain't hitting for a few 100,000 or a few million. They finna start crashing out. But the good thing about being black, we already built for what's about to happen. We already built for it. God been preparing us this whole time. We didn't even know it. Because y'all remember back then when the Great Depression hit, those white people was out there crashing out. They didn't know what was about to happen because they didn't have access to their money. Whole time the black people was still thriving, because back then they wasn't even able to put their money into banks. So when the stock market crashed, it really didn't affect black people too much. So God was already preparing our people back then. Whole time God been preparing us this whole time, because we know how it feels to go without. We know how it feels to not get approved for loans. We know how it feels to not get approved for houses, and we have to come up with an alternative, how to make something out of nothing. Or we know how it feels to struggle to go without.
And everybody's blaming everybody else. You know, here in the UK, you have the migrants that are coming into the UK, and then you got the Edomites, the so-called white people throughout the UK, blaming it on the Islamists coming in and taking all the jobs and taking all the benefits and, you know, grooming gangs and all this other stuff, and they're starting to rise up.
Our fucking country, not fucking theirs.
This was my house.
I'm here to save the kids. The children have been murdered. There's been a massacre on the street.
They got the targeting little white girls all over the country. Let's call a spade a fucking spade.
It's like Russian roulette at this point. Which one's going to be next?
No one questioned why BLM were out. No one questions why Palestine are out. We're saving the kids. We're stopping the boats. We're closing the borders. Look how mad we've all gone. This is real women. This is lionesses. This is the lion roaring. I'm not racist, and I don't give a fuck what you say.
Then who's trying to kill our kids?
Policies that politicians put in place, yeah?
Stop the boats! Stop the boats! Stop the boats! Stop the boats!
They're calling us far right. We're not far right. We're all fathers and parents of children. These immigrants are coming in without paperwork. We're lying about their ages. We don't know nothing about the the backgrounds, and that's what it's about.
We don't want to be branded far right. You know, we're here for the right reasons. I want my kids to know I didn't stay silent. Leave our kids alone.
It's about children that have lost their lives in this city, and we're passionate about that up here.
We're not racist. We've got Muslim friends. Our country has benefited from migration. However, it's just getting overwhelming. We're a very small island. It's become a security risk.
Religion means fuck all, lads. I'm not arsed. This is about people coming in. They could be Christians from Somalia, wherever, and the fucking wrong-uns. That's what it is. We're letting wrong-uns in. This is not religious. That's bollocks. Fucking bollocks. This is about the wrong-uns they're letting in. You could be a Christian, you could be whatever. You're coming in, you've got no intention of fucking helping the country. You're here to cause trouble. You're here to take and thieve and steal. You're here to stay for nothing. So, unfortunately, that's a no-no.
There's 50,000 people here on an MI6 list, isn't there? Start with them, get rid of them, get rid of the people who are killing kids, raping kids, get rid of them.
The Sentencing Council went ahead with the two-tier justice guidelines despite warnings they would hand convicted criminals a get-out-of-jail-free cards. It has emerged. And it says the Kwango has also admitted in a consultation report into the changes that offenders could get special treatment from judges and magistrates, even if it was only possible that they were members of an ethnic, religious, or a gender minority. Two-tier guidelines. Sentencing Council have gone ahead with it. Hey, there's no other words about it. It's racist. Massively, massively, massively racist. Why is there special treatment for different people? What are you doing? Always said with this government and the Tories, they were so keen on dividing people. And things like this make that even bigger. He spoke about it. I did a video on it last week, but he spoke about it in the Commons and he said, this is racist. Massively. Because what you're doing there, a white British male or female, how are they meant to feel after seeing stuff like this? Also, we don't matter anymore, do we? If I commit an offence and you commit an offence, but I get a longer... How does that make sense? Because I was born in this country. This is my country. My birth certificate, my passport. I'm from this country. But you get special... Doesn't make any sense, people. What they're trying to achieve here. They want civil unrest. And do you know what? I think you're absolutely spot on. This is in regards to the two-tier justice system. Now, I want to speak about something, and I want all your opinions on it. If you're on X, all I can see on the FYP on X is the new head of education. You definitely would have seen that. You'd have also seen all the signs what are on buses in London. They're all over the country, by the way. They're all on advertising boards. They're absolutely everywhere. And it's raising a lot of attention. Now, here's the thing. When you say this, they want civil unrest. When you see these things, you're driving down, you see a massive advertising board with the sign on it. Some people instantly go, oh my God, what the fuck is that? Blah, 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 blah. The minute one of them get defaced or taken down or graffiti on them, that's when you're going to get a divide. And that is when you're going to get civil unrest. And I genuinely feel they're dividing people in more ways than you would ever imagine. And it is horrendous. The things they are pushing out, it's like they're testing people. They're testing certain people. In certain people do some things, you can't do that. Then you get the people going, well, why can they do that and we can't do that? It's like the justice system thing. It's madness. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what their aim is. I don't know what the game is. But it's not good. And something bad is going to happen in the next couple of years in this very country because this incompetent government are playing games. Massive, massive games.
Nearly 3,000 comments to this post. 3,000. And this is the one. This is the one that pulls at my heartstrings because it's so sad. It's so sad, but it's so right. It's this lady's so Hennessy, sorry, late man, probably Hennessy 999. So correct. How the UK is not in a civil war yet is beyond belief. People have had it up to their back teeth. They've had it up to here. We've taken so much shit. And there has to come a point when we can't take any more. So, well said, Hennessy 999.
Right, same thing that's happening in the USA is happening in England. In the USA, you're now starting to see a lot of emboldened Edomites under the leadership of President Trump. You're starting to see people being emboldened. Now, I haven't really looked too much into it, but you're starting to see a lot of people talking about segregation coming back in a real way, like segregation. But again, I don't know too much on that, so I won't speak on it at this point, but I'm sure that more will come out of it regarding it soon. But you're seeing like unrighteous dealings, right? You know, people losing their jobs left, right, and center, can't afford to pay their bills. You know, they're losing everything, right? Injuries, people getting taken out, you know. You got all kinds of wickedness going on, and then riches got by deceit. Like a lot of, you know, the rich are getting richer, and there's always a lot of underhand table exchanges. You know what I mean? Like that's happening, and the rich are getting richer while the poor are getting poorer, right? It says the kingdom is translated from one people to another, which again, you know, brings the scripture to mind in the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6. It says here, right? And you can read about the story of Jacob and Esau in the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, and probably all the way up to the 27th chapter. And you could see like what transpired in that. I won't turn to it now because obviously for time's sake, but you know, here in the book of 2nd Ezra, I'm going to start at verse 8. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 8. It says, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand first, or held first the heel of Esau. And this is the point. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. You're starting to see the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, indigenous, right? You're starting to see us rise up. You know, you're starting to see us come together. You're seeing us look better. You know, we're looking healthy. We've gone through hell, and yet we're still here. And we're, you know, in some cases doing better than a lot of Edomites. So when the Edomites look at, you know, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, or so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we're doing better. You know, we got our culture. We got, you know, we're finding our heritage. We're getting that back, right? And Esau's looking rough and rugged these days. Esau's, you know, on a downward spiral, and I think he notices that. That's why it's easy for them to get jealous, because at one point in time they were at the top. Now they're looking like, you know, they have it rough. I mean, I mean, they look like they have it. They do have it rough, you know. But it says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So we're up next. And I think they understand that, right? Hence the reason why now they're starting to panic a bit. So we're going to jump over to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30. I think it's verse 7. Yeah, so this is the time that we're coming into now. And I bring this out quite often. But, you know, I think it's relevant for this lesson. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Right? So that's the point, right? Jacob's trouble is upon us. We're almost at that time of Jacob's trouble and the civil war and all the fighting and everything that's coming to this place, right? You know, we understand that that Esau understands that he has but a short time left, or the elites, should I say, the elites of Esau Edom, they understand that they've got a short time left, so they're trying to speed things up. Right, so I'm going to jump over to the book of Revelation, chapter 12. I think it's verse 12. Yeah, so this, I'll just get straight to the point, right? So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 12. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. And now woe means destruction. It says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Right? So he knows, like, when the prophecies start to show themselves and things in the earth start happening, he understands that his time is short. So he is rapidly trying to beat prophecy so he can put himself in the power seat, right? But it's all going to come to naught because the Lord already has the victory, right? So he's trying to beat prophecy. So what he's doing is he's trying to stir up, this digital system, or he's trying to finish this digital system and implement it when there's massive oppression going on in the world. Esau comes with, he creates the problem and then comes with the solution, so people just fall in line. That's what he's trying to achieve at the moment. And if he's able to achieve that, then he's, he can basically take out the people that are calling on the Lord, and he can have everybody in subjection, But obviously, like I mentioned, the Lord has already got the victory, so he ain't gonna get, he ain't gonna be able to complete his agenda or whatever he's got planned that he thinks he's gonna be able to fulfill, right? Because it says, it says, for the devil has come down unto you. Who's the devil? The nation of Esau, Edom. It says, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So they understand, they know that their time is short, right? Now, I'm going to jump to the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, right? Because again, we are talking about the civil war, the race riots, all of that. We just have to sort of bring these scriptures out and just show you, I'll post edit, and I'll add some clips in just to sort of give you an idea of what I'm referring to and what inspired me to do this lesson, right? This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15. I'm going to start at verse 15. I'm going to read down. It says, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hand, right? So here we go. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? So, you're going to have up north is a no-go zone, down south is a no-go zone, and it's going to be nation against nation, you know what I mean? You're going to have your Muslims versus the, what do they call them? The English patriots, right? The patriots of England, right? Same in America. You're going to have, your so-called blacks versus your so-called whites. You're going to have your Islam groups, your Islamic groups versus the Chinese groups. You're just going to have those sedition among men and invading one another, And it says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. So the authorities, the people in, rulership or authority at that point, no one gonna be able to tell you to do anything. They're just gonna be ignored. They're not even gonna regard them, right? And the course of their action shall stand in their power. So if they're able to lock off lock off up north, you remember the movie Civil War. There was a scene in that movie or film where, they got stopped by those militia groups, that militia group of people. And he was like, we're American. And the guy said, well, what kind of American? You know what I mean? Like, that sort of giving you an idea of what it means, like, and the course of their action shall stand in their power, right? So if they've got the power to lock off that area, that's what they're going to do, right? Verse 17 says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Right? It's going to be a time like no other, right? I'm going to read verse 19 and leave it there, because that's the point. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Meaning, it's going to be mad out here. There's going to be food riots, race riots, civil war, uprisings of the people, just all kinds of madness going on out there, because of the times that we're coming into. You're seeing things just progressively getting worse and worse and worse. Here in the UK, they're cutting off or they're going after the benefit system because they're trying to generate money to fund a war that nobody's interested in fighting, right? So, I mean, again, these are the signs of the times, right, that we're coming into. Okay, so it says here, I'm going to jump over to the book of Isaiah, and I'll make this my final scripture, because I just wanted to sort of briefly talk on that point of civil war and uprises of the people. But this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 13. Let's see. So, yeah, so that's the verse I was looking for. So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 13, and I'm going to read verse 14, and it says, "And it shall be as a chaste roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land." All right, and that's the point that I wanted to harp upon, because it says, "They shall every man turn to his own people." Right, so you're going to have people coming together, right? You only feel safe around your own kind, you know. If there's a, you're, let's say for example, you're a Native American, indigenous, and you lived in an area full of Chinese people, right? And you're there on your own. The Chinese are all going to link up together. If you were enemies, the Chinese would all link up together and you would be the only one there, but you'd feel a lot safer as a Native American if you were around other Native Americans, right? Because they're your people, right? Same similar scenario with all the other races, right? So it says, "They shall every man turn to his own people, and free every one into his own land," right? It says, "Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword." So anybody that's joined unto the Edomites, right? Because you do have, some races that are die hard down to stick with the Edomites, but the Edomites are going to receive their judgment. So if you're joined unto them, trying to defend them or help them out in any way, you're going to fall with them, right? The Isaiah, the 13th chapter, just to give you a little context, it speaks towards the judgment of Babylon back in those times, like the ancient Babylonian times. But also you can, use it as a reference of things to come in this captivity, in this empire, because America is also known as the virgin daughter of Babylon, right, in the scriptures. And there's a lot of scriptures that we can bring out to prove that, but I won't in this lesson, because like I said, I just wanted to make it a brief lesson, just touching on the points of the coming civil war, race war, food wars, all kinds of, civil uprising that is due to come. And now that summer's coming around, it may look out to be an interesting summer, So we just, as the prophecies come to pass, we just filter them through the scriptures and do these lessons and let you know what's coming, right? So you can prepare and you can repent before that dreadful and terrible day of the Lord, But I pray that this lesson was edifying. I pray that it wasn't, too confusing. But if you have any questions, ideally, you can put them on the comment board and I'll respond to them. But with that, I'm going to close out here. I'm going to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rechak, Wadash. And I'm going to say shalom. It's on to the next one, Lord willing.
On the 24th of May, Great Britain will hold a national strike. The Great British National Strike. Why? Well, because Great Britain is under attack. You and I, as you watch this video, you are under attack. Our children are in very real danger. Our elderly are now more at risk of freezing to death in their own homes due to fuel allowance cuts and ever-rising cost of living. 14.4 million British households are now trying to desperately survive beneath the poverty line, choosing food or warmth for their children. In just 14 days' time, the UK legal system will openly discriminate against white British men, giving them harsh sentences than everybody else for committing the same crimes. Our government are trying desperately to involve us in wars that simply don't concern us. Our money, our taxes are being spent in foreign aid when our own streets are all that too many of our veterans can call home. Nurses, police officers, truck drivers, everyone in between, they're so strapped for cash that they're now relying on food banks. Despite this, taxes have risen once again and our energy prices have increased. It's now said that between income tax, VAT, council tax, sales tax, fuel tax, carbon tax, 55% of your energy bill right now, your gas and electric, 55%, for every £100 you spent, £55 of that is carbon tax. It is believed that every month when you get paid, 81% of your wages will be taxed through what you purchase and what you are forced to hand over in every single paycheck. Suicide rates are through the roof, our NHS is broken and many hospitals are in a state of emergency and declaring that they can simply no longer provide the care needed. Our streets aren't safe, our schools aren't safe, and the coordinated efforts of our corrupt, self-serving government, judiciary, mainstream media, local councils and wider large-scale corporations and religious institutions are working together to destroy our very way of life, our British way of life. Luxury hotels are being used to house those who simply don't belong here. They arrive on boats, 99% of them young, fit, athletic, military fighting-age males who purposefully carry no documentation. Various figures have been warning us of this for years. They have been demonised, cancelled, sued, and even thrown in jail under the worst possible kinds of conditions for simply speaking out. It is time to say enough is enough. We will not allow this to continue. We are Great Britain and we will protect our home from those who wish to destroy us. We demand that the boats be stopped and every single illegal immigrant be removed from our home. We demand that the insanity that is net zero be stopped immediately and the associated carbon tax be removed from our energy bills. We demand a full public inquiry into the Pakistani rape gangs and finally get some sort of justice for the 1 million little girls who have been defiled, destroyed and brutalised in the most sickening and disgusting ways imaginable, only to be ignored and left behind by those who are sworn to protect them. We demand that the two-tier legal system be completely overhauled and be reset to ensure that regardless of race, religion, sexual preference or gender, we must all be treated fairly under the law. Nobody deserves preferential treatment. We demand that all funds stop being sent to Ukraine and a promise to the people from Keir Starmer that British involvement will not occur. We demand that the latest tax policies designed to attack our farmers be reversed and farmers be given more freedom to grow, rear and do what they have done for generations without the needless, nonsensical interference from governments and institutions who are crippling the operational efficiency of those who put food on our plates. We are Great Britain. We, the people, hold the power. Keir Starmer, May 24th will be your first taste of what we, the ones who you treat like animals, can truly do. We will show you who holds the power and we will do it peacefully, in solidarity with each other. There will be legal British citizens, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, there will be white people, black people, there will be every different kind of British citizen on our streets in every single city centre, including some towns, and we will bring this country to a standstill bit by bit and we will up the ante again and again if you don't listen to what we have to say. Thank you for watching. We are Great Britain.